I have an action-packed show for all of you. I've been digging around on the internet this weekend and found some interesting stories that I'd love to share with you regarding Bryan Kohberger and the Idaho 4 case. But friends, let's not wait too long. Let's get right into the first story this evening. Accused killer Bryan Kohberger had photos of Idaho victim on his phone, a source says. Accused Idaho killer Bryan Kohberger allegedly had multiple photos of one of the female victims on his phone, suggesting that he had been specifically paying attention to her, a source connected to the case said this week. And the thing that I have to say about this, and I keep talking about this, and there's a lot of debate about this, that someone inside the sources, someone that is close to the sources, someone that is close to this investigation is leaking information. And I'm going to pull up another article in a second regarding all of that this potentially could compromise the case. And I asked a question today on my community board. Do you think that Kohberger is going to get a fair trial? This is going to potentially, there's people talking. I mean, the media is getting information from someone in this source. There's just been too much information that's been getting out. And, I have another article I'm going to pull up here in a minute from Yahoo via Fox News talking about leaks in this case. And the thing is that everybody debates this and they say it's just people making things up. It has to have some type of source. And I don't think that someone's just going to pull this out of the thin air and just say, oh, let's throw this up. I mean, we're getting this from news media sources. This is not something that I'm sourcing from conspiracy channels. This is not something that I'm sourcing from TikTok videos. This is multiple sources of media. And I know, listen, I tend not to, say the media is totally credible, but, we're hearing a lot of this chatter lately. And, with any case, you guys have to look at, with any case that's been out there, any high profile case like this, when has it been that you haven't heard anything? Source information is going to get out. People are going to talk. People are going to get paid. You don't think, you don't think that reporters don't, pay off or give money or, to any source that's out there? Of course they do. Of course they do. So it says the images were found on Kohberger's phone when it was seized by investigators. And this is the thing too. I think that a lot of people, if this case goes to trial, are going to be extremely shocked at the amount of evidence in this case. Because I think, and I've talked about this a lot, I think that people have this small box, this window of, this is the only information that we have in this case. It cannot be, he is innocent, yada, yada, yada. That's all we have. There's going to be so much information in this case when it comes out. The file is probably, filing cabinets deep of information that I have found out and investigated since this has all began. And we're going to find out the connection when this goes to trial. We're going to find out why he went there. I have my theory on it. I'm seeing things. I'm reading things. So it says the images were found on Kohberger's phone when it was seized by investigators after he was arrested in late December for the November 13th stabbing deaths of Kaylee, Madison, Xana, Ethan. Though the sources did not identify which of the female victim was in the pictures, they confirmed that Kohberger had more than one photos of her. It is clear that he was definitely paying attention to her. At the time of the arrest, Kohberger was 28. Is a student criminology at WSU in Pullman, about 15 minutes of off campus where the students were killed. I'm not going to go on too much. I'm going to read a little bit more here. It says, though investigators are tight-lipped on the Pennsylvania native's possible ties to the victims, cell phone data include in the probable cause affidavit reveal that he may have stalked the neighborhood multiple times in the months before the murders. And this is where I go back and I start thinking, what do we have in front of us when we sort through all of this information, the information that's been given to us so far? Where are we at? What is the connection? I believe my theory is this. I think that he went into the restaurant of where Maddie and Kaylee worked. I think that he either became fixated on one of them or both of them. I think that he did some searching around, maybe through like a student directory, Facebook, Instagram, found out their names, found out who they were, and started to fixate on them. There's been reports out there that he followed all three of the girls on Instagram. I think he became fixated with particularly Maddie or Kaylee and tried reaching out to them and got no answers. And I think that's where the trigger was. That's what triggered him to do this. I know there's conspiracies of the drugs and the involvement and the aliens came down from the UFO and law enforcement's involved. And this is all a big false flag and the FBI and this and that and this and that. Well, if it is, come on my show, call the show 774-855-9400. Tell me why the aliens did this. Tell me why law enforcement has done this. Tell me why this has been a big setup. Tell me it was Chief Fry. Tell me it was the President of the United States. I want to hear your story. I want to hear your evidence. I want to hear your claim to back up all of this. I want to hear it. So phone lines are open, 774-855-9400. And I'm going to go on to the next story here in a minute. Let me just pull up some of these chats. Nikas B says, yes, we're going to be shocked of the evidence and the prosecution's theory. Dr. Bob says there will probably be a change of venue for this case. I absolutely agree with that, Dr. Bob. I've been reading some media sources about that because, to be tried in that county, it's just going to be almost impossible to find an impartial jury. So I definitely think the case will be moved. SC says, yes, definitely feel it's a rejection attack and wasn't expecting anyone else to be home. I completely agree. All right, let's keep moving on here. Let's see. And then this brings up my my next article here from Yahoo News via Fox News. Says Idaho murders, Bryan Kohberger's leaks, huge issues with potential to compromise prosecution, lawyer warns. Excuse me. A slow but consistent stream of leaks in the Idaho student murders case have been dire consequences for prosecutors seeking justice for the 4 undergrads found stabbed to death last year, according to a veteran defense attorney in the state. While the case against Bryan Kohberger is currently under a restrictive gag order that itself is facing a challenge in court, investigators for attorneys for both sides, as well as the victim, survivor, and their families, are limited in what they can publicly say about the case. It's been a huge issue that the source of leaking information, Edwina Elcox, the Boise-based former attorney of cult mom, child killing suspect Lori Vallow, that has the potential to compromise the integrity of the investigation and prosecution of this case. There are fears that too much exposure could closely followed national news story could taint the jury pool in Latah County in rural swath of farmland and mountains in northern Idaho, where more than half live in Moscow, the college town where all 4 slain University of Idaho students were living. If an employee of my office did that, they would unequivocally no longer be employed, Elcox added. The remark came after a series of reports in which unnamed law enforcement sources made claims about the stabbing suspect and the evidence against him, including that he allegedly had a stockpile of photos of one of the victims on his phone and sent at least one of them messages over Instagram before the crime. I understand Kohberger's fancying himself as intelligent, Elcock said, but as the criminology PhD student, it should have been abundantly obvious that maintaining pictures of one of the victims could provide to be problematic for him.